Today we're going to take a look at how to fix the electrics in a vintage Star Wars AT-AT. I picked up a couple of spare ones of these a few weeks back at a toy fair, and neither of which work. So the first thing I want to do before restoring them is to get the electrics working, and if they don't work I will sort of amalgamate the two into one, take the best bits of both. So first off, you're going to need the right size batteries. You can still buy the D size batteries, but they're quite expensive. So rather than doing that, I picked up these converters off eBay. These convert a standard AA battery into a D-sized battery, and these are actually cheaper to buy than buying D batteries. So I picked up two of these for £1.5p from China, and that included postage, so very good value. So all you'll need is some standard AA batteries, which most people have a lot of them lying around the house, so it's the cheapest way of doing it. So you'll get your two of these, and first things first, let's try and see if this one works. So the battery compartment is in the body of it. Put them in the right way round, and press the button on the arm that moves the head. As you can see on this one, nothing happens. So there are a number of things that can be wrong with the electrics in an AT-AT, and it's a fairly long process to go through and get it all working, but let's do that. First thing you need to do is to take it apart. Most of the electrics are in the head, so if you take the body apart and just get the head off, then that's the easiest bit to work on. The only bit that's in the body is the battery compartment. So let's take this apart and we'll work on the head and get things going. To get the head off this figure, you actually need to remove all of the bottom of the AT-AT, and that will release the mechanism that holds the head in place, and you should be able to leave the wires just dangling into the battery compartment. So once you've taken the top of the AT-AT off, the first thing you'll need to check is that the cables that run from the where the two batteries are to the head are still intact and not broken. So you need to take the floor panel off, and you can just turn this over, and you just want to double check that the two wires, there's a grey and a red wire, are still attached to the terminals, which they are in this case, and that the terminals themselves are sort of reasonably clean. These don't look too bad, there's no corrosion on them, so that means that the fault lies within the head. So the next job is to take the head apart. Again, this is a fairly sort of long-winded process just because there's a lot of screws, and also you need to keep a sort of check of what bits go where so that you can put this all back together. You'll find in the head there will be a motor, and then there's also a bulb. The bulb I've removed from here because I know this is already blown. Here is the bulb. This is already blown, so I need to replace that at some point. But the electrics on this don't even work with the bulb missing, so it means that something's up with the motor, and also the bits that move the guns back and forth are locked solid, so that tends to suggest something else is wrong. So let's get this head open and we'll see what needs doing. So now we have the head of the AT-AT apart. The next bit you'll need to check is the switch that's on the handle that moves the head. This is a very simple part of the model, but again it's well worth checking. You just need to remove this panel here which holds the button in place. You can loosen this with a knife, and inside you'll find a metal plate. If I just get my knife again here, that the button pushes to touch another metal plate, and if you see in there, just double check that there's no corrosion on that, or that nothing is broken, that all the wires are in place. So the wire is still attached to this springy plate, and the wire is still attached to the other one. So that all appears to be working. So now we have to move on to the electrics in the head, which are going to be what's causing the problem in this case. So we now have just the mechanics and the electrics in the head here. Luckily with these AT-ATs, all of the connections are held together with these sort of push-on little clips, so you can actually unplug large sections of it. This green cable here is the one that is connected to the switch in the head lever, and this red one goes all the way through the vehicle to the end of the battery compartment. So basically all I've done here is removed the switch part of this circuit. I've also added a bulb that I know works, so this way I can sort of narrow down and see what's not working. So all we need to do is take our two fake D batteries and then hold these connectors to the terminal. So if I just I'll put the red one there on that end. This is quite low voltage, so it's not going to hurt me if I just have my finger in the way and touch that on there, and see what happens. Oh, and there you go. You can see it does actually work. I've given the motor a little twist previously, just to sort of kick it, because sometimes these get just locked in place. So just giving that little twist and touching these together seems to have got it working. So that's quite an easy fix in this case. Sometimes the motors themselves are actually blown or have just rusted up, so all you will be able to do with that is find a replacement motor. And actually you can people sell these separately on eBay. They will take apart an ATAT and sell it in pieces, so you should be able to get a replacement motor quite easily. So obviously there is a loose connection somewhere in the switch mechanism, so although it looked alright, there's obviously something going on there. So I'm now going to put this back together and see what's going on with the switch, and hopefully we should be able to get this all working and ready for the rest of its sort of reconstruction and renovation. So having seen that the motor and light work without the switch section connected, I've now reattached the switch section. This all just clips in place, and I can try it again just to see if it's actually the switch that's broken. And as you can see, it now all works perfectly well. So quite often the case with these toys, you'd never actually find out what wasn't working. It would just be something has caught slightly, or the motor just needs a turn, and things just will suddenly get back to working. So for a toy that's sort of 30 years old, this is pretty good news. So I can now get this all put back together. I've now given all the parts a good clean, because as you saw, this was a pretty filthy toy. And when you put it back together, you have to remember to get everything back in the right order. So it does pay to maybe take some photos of the toy as you take it apart, so that you've got a good bit of reference, especially with the ATAT, because lots of bits of the wiring have to be threaded through various parts of the toy. So just to make sure you sort of keep a good check of what you're removing and what needs going back where, so that it's an easier job. Putting the head section back together is probably the trickiest bit, just because there's lots of pieces that need organising correctly. The side head guns are fitted using these white bits of plastic, so remember to put those in place on the side. Then you can tip the sort of mechanical component with the motor and all the gears, and this slots back in here. It's a little bit awkward. You sort of use various parts of the body line up a bit awkwardly. You'll see there's a lip here that has to go over that section, and if you get that bit right, everything else just seems to sort of slot in place, so like so. And now you have the well, actually this is the sort of control arm. This also needs to go over that peg there, so make sure that all of that is in place, and it should just slot back nicely. Then you have the sort of the outer part of the neck. Again, this has to go over this larger peg here, and the control arm, you can sort of wiggle it a bit, and that will just slot back in place like so. So once you've done that, that's not too bad. And then also always remember to reconnect the little cables. Well, if you forget to do this, nothing that you fixed is going to work. So just slot those back together like so. And then these all get hidden inside the neck section, and this cable here needs to be positioned so that it comes back out of that slot there, along with the red one as well. That's got to go all the way along the neck back, and these will connect to the battery compartment inside the main body of the ATAT. So now you can go ahead and put the last few bits on and screw it all back together. So that goes there, and should all fit nicely. It's always a good idea at this point while you've got the head together but you haven't actually sort of attached it to the body, just to check that it still all works. So I've got the batteries here, and I'll just test again that everything is still going. As you can hear, the motor's going and the light lights up, so that's a good sign. So we can now put this all back together and attach it to the body. And so here we have the finished working ATAT. The bulb that you need for the ATAT is a 2.4 volt small glass bulb like this with a flat end to it. Although you can actually use ones that have a screw fitting. The little bits of metal on the bottom of the ATAT that hold the bulb in place can be bent slightly. So if you can't quite get this 2.4 volt bulb, then one like this will do, and it works just as well. So it just requires a little bit of modification. So anyway, I hope that videos have helped you, and thanks for watching.